IGC News. Mema Bawumia Akwawa had the latest and hot news in one and the Bremo and Uti Sebunya subscribe ya body say over subscribe. Now like no share video. Gabby and say over click the subscribe button. Now barely notification. When sa video ya upload no. Also when sa can be. I feel we are like the video give us a thumbs up now feel share just say was so na e na amount for so enye bi na wo hwe na woni hu de ekoso e wo gara ma ho am afi ye hwe ensema abeto bo ye proso enti eye ensemu ya ababeto ba enti.
Will this apostrophe nonsense ever stop?
Well, Randy, it has to stop. You know, I'm really amazed, you know, that a debate like this will be started at this time, you know, of our national life, when everything is going haywire. And I was wondering what the president was seeking to profit, you know, from starting such a needless, you know, debate. Right now, what is the point? Nkrumah was not the founder of Ghana, and so what? How does that affect the rate of inflation? How does that affect escalating prices? How does that affect anything? And to think that it is the president who initiates this debate is extremely worrying. You know, there's so many things that the president should focus on. And rather than focus on those things, his focus is on who is the founder of Ghana. Absolutely ridiculous. Now, these matters have been settled by the historical record. They've been settled by practice. They've been settled everywhere. So why ignite this debate? You know, what is the basis of this? And this whole argument that, you know, Nkrumah is not the only founder, no nation can be founded by one person and so on. By extension, where would it end? Are we going back to the Aborigines Rights Protection Society? Are we going back to the heroes and sheroes who fought against the transatlantic slave trade? Are we back to the days of Yahweh when she fought to preserve slave routes for Ashanti and so on? Where does it end? Where does it stop? If everybody who made a contribution to the national independence struggle is going to be recognized, where would it stop? Understand? In any case, it is significant that when you talk about the big six, it excludes PAG grants. That exclusion is lost on the president. Understand? This big six, why is PAG grant in the big six? The original promoter of the United Gold Coast Convention is missing from the big six. And yet he finds nothing wrong with that. And then in any case, the historical record teaches us that this whole concept of the big six is a testimony to the intelligence failure of the British colonialists. Their intelligence collapsed completely. Because all of them, except Nkrumah, denied involvement in the rout that led to their arrest. All of them. And indeed, if their denials are true, then there was a huge intelligence failure on the part of the British. And the big six ought to be a celebration of the intelligence failure of the colonial administration at that time. I think this whole debate is completely needless, useless, you know, and we should stop it. Right. You know, apart from the fact that it devalues some of the essential features of our nationhood and sovereignty. Because you cannot be talking about this Founders Day and so on without reference to the degrading of 1st July, you know, because the degrading of 1st July really is an affront to our dignity and sovereignty. But why so? Oh, our final independence, the point where our sovereignty was properly and fully established, was July 1, 1960.
That's when we became a republic.
That's when we became a republic. So to downgrade that is to show gross disrespect for our fight for national sovereignty, for our fight for national independence, and actually to devalue our republican
So Kwesi, for those who perhaps don't appreciate this point that you're making, we all know that we gained independence on 6 March 1957. Now you're saying that the event of 1st July 1960 is what really finished the deal about independence for us.
Yeah.
So what was happening between 57 and 1960?
Between 1957 and 1960, the Queen of England, you know, was still the head of state of Ghana. Was still the head of state of Ghana. And like today, in Canada, the King of England is still the head of state. So the sovereignty is not fully established. What happened in 1957, 6 March 1957, was that we gained some partial independence which enabled us to take control of our administrative governance machinery. That's all. In fact, the process started from 1951. In 1951, Kwame Nkrumah became leader of government business. But in 1951, for example, we had no control over our ministries of finance, defense, and foreign affairs. Those portfolios were reserved for the colonial administration. Okay. In 1951, you still had a colonial governor who was stationed in the Christiansborg castles, who was virtually the head of state. In 1957, we went a step further. Nkrumah became prime minister, you know, of the republic, and were responsible. We had a lot more responsibility in terms of running the governance structure of the country and so on. It was on 1st July 1960 that we truly became a republic and could have a president and all the things that come, you know, with the republican status. So July 1, 1960 is an essential part of the movement towards full independence. That's when we gained our full.
So when did we start singing?
I can't give you the exact date, you know, but that was during the colonial era, when the Queen actually, when the British colonialists firmly established their domination over our politics, over our economics, and virtually, you know, they were in charge, you know. But 1951 is important, 1957 is important, and 1960 is most important. I mean, you cannot claim that you actually support independence for the country. You cannot claim that you value our independence if you downgrade July 1st, 1960.
You have this interesting view, and that view is that you find the issue of the different republics as, for want of a milder expression, as rubbish. And that you think that there's one and only one republic, irrespective of the overthrow of constitutions and all that. You believe that there is only one. You only become a republic once, and that's the end of the matter. Because coup d'etats don't send you back into colonial rule.
That's absolutely true. We gained our republican status on 1st July 1960, and that status has never changed. Even under military regimes, we were still a republic. So we have only one republic. All these things about second republic and so on was also part of the attempt to devalue the republican status we obtained on 1st July 1960. Otherwise, we've had only one republic. It has never changed. You know, I mean, when Kotuka and others, with the support of the Central Intelligence Agency of the United States of America, seized power in 1960, Ghana did not cease to become a republic. Ghana did not cease to become a republic when, under some circumstances, you know, Buzia was elected as prime minister. It did not cease to be a republic when General Agyapong took over. Ghana has been a republic from 1st July 1960, and that status has never changed. We have only one republic. We don't have a fourth republic, we don't have a third republic. It's all just...
So the point you make is that even when the constitution is overthrown, I'm trying to understand you, even if the constitution is overthrown by a coup d'etat, and we don't lose our republican status, because incidentally, the leaders of the coup themselves are called the head of state of the Republic of Ghana.
Exactly.
That's the title.
Exactly.
Okay. So that if in restoring democracy, we even have a new constitution, it could still be the 1960 constitution. It could still be the 79 Constitution. It could still be the 92 Constitution. But that must not lead to a new republic.
Our republican status, which we gained in 1960, is reflected in all the constitutions we have adopted. All of them. None of them attempts to take away the republican status. No coup regime has devalued our republican status. We've been a republic from 1960. We have remained a republic up to today. In fact, the coup leaders themselves assumed the position of head of state.
Of the
president.
Republic of Ghana.
Exactly. You cannot be, a head of state. You cannot be, president of a country if indeed you are still under colonial subjugation. So it is clear, as far as I'm concerned, it is clear. We've had only one republic, and that one republic has never changed.
1st July 1960.
1st July 1960.
Okay. All right. The optics, from the optical point of view, is images of some 6 persons depicting these 6 as the founders. So I ask myself, and I mean, with the greatest respect to everybody, and I don't intend to offend anybody. I, for example, ask myself, why will I find William Ofori Atta and not find Pa Grant? What is it about the contribution of some of those people that's a past some of those people that I have read about in our history? That if indeed this thing was meant to correct something, some historical mistakes that have been made, that it is rather being used to tell, is being used in a subtle manner to tell a particular story.
Randy,
Just a little more. I mean, not just Pa Grant. Nick Kwabena Agyapong, where is he? When we are celebrating 4th of August, where is Nick Kwabena Agyapong? Where is Sergeant Ajete? Where is Corporal Atipo? Where are all those people? Where do you find Yas Antwa in that big 6 and so on? It's just...
No, right. So I think that, I mean...
So why the 6?
Yes,
why
I think that these concerns are valid in terms of really expanding the scope of people. But even that, I mean, the list probably would be endless because, like I indicated earlier, there are people who are on stand here.
So my question really is, why the 6?
No, but
why those 6 personalities?
I feel
why?
So those 6 personalities, I mean, since I was a child, you actually even see these 6 personalities on our legal tender, and it's been highlighted over a period.
Yeah, but growing up, I begin to ask myself,
why?
What is it that each of them, I know what Nkrumah did, I know what some of them did. I mean, what is it that, for instance, if we say that if we include all these people, we might get into a realm of absurdity.
Exactly.
I agree.
Yeah.
I agree. But if we don't want to get to the realm of absurdity, and we think that there are particular people who play towering roles, for which reason, if we want to even put 6 people, we should have them. Why these 6?
No, but that's what I'm saying. So that conversation, again, I think that is also significant that we appreciate that there's a lot of healing that needs to be done in this country. Sometimes I feel that people are like that and take extreme positions because of things that happen and they were even victims of, right? So it goes beyond even the politics of it and now becomes social, it becomes things that has family ties, things that have even religious, if you want to put it that way, and personal circumstances that pertained at the time. So for example, even if you ask a question about these big 6, I think it became very significant because these big 6 were people who were actually apprehended and put in prison by the colonial masters.
Some had gone visiting some people.
Exactly. Right, and that's all the accounts of someone, for example, Akufo, for example, who had some interaction with Kwame Nkrumah, decided that, listen, let's bring in this young man who he had actually identified to come in and help the UGCC as a general secretary, and even wrote a letter and all of those things. And the UGCC at the time, with all some of these people, facilitated Nkrumah's return to Ghana to start the struggle. So and that's what I'm saying, that it's very difficult to convince someone who has held a certain position for a very long time especially when it dovetails into a conversation around ideology, around this whole conversation around independence now, or independence in the shortest possible time, and all the things that pertain there. So it's almost as if that we are mixing a whole bunch of things, and whether you like it or not, like I've always used this example here. I mean, I grew up in a home that, I wasn't around when Nkrumah was president, right? I grew up in a home where my dad and his brothers didn't have anything positive to say about Kwame Nkrumah because of personal experiences, right? And it would shape. So apart from the things
that would be about in analyzing or evaluating maybe Nkrumah's leadership, his presidency.
Yes.
They can have that view.
Yeah.
You are
but when it comes
Juicy
to the
News
issue
on
of
YouTube. Hot news all time.
founders and those
Juicy
things,
News
for me it's not about
Hot
what you
news
think
all
about a person.
time.
It's about facts.
Yeah, but
historical records.
Yeah, but that's what I'm
whether
saying.
you like the person or not.
Randy,
nobody can take away the fact that Jerry John Rawlings was president in the Fourth Republic from period A to period B. Whether you like him or you loathe him, that fact.
It's there. Right. I mean, Randy, that's what I'm saying, that it's all about also sometimes respecting people's views and opinions on some of these things. And so for one person, they feel that, listen, these persons or everybody that played some role, either known or unknown, should have some significance.
Yeah, I'm telling you that's why I told you
now,
that
there's also
I'm prepared. I'm prepared to even accept.
Yes.
You see, because I look around Africa. I don't even want to go beyond that. I look around Africa. The people who are celebrated as the founders of some of those African countries, they didn't start the independence struggle in their respective countries. They didn't. So whether you are going to Kenya or you are going to Tanzania or you are going anywhere, those who are celebrated and are everybody agrees that they are the founders, they didn't start the independence struggle.
But you see, Randy,
so if you want to talk about the fact that the struggle started from somewhere, people know that.
Randy,
you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
People know that. So if we even come to even policies in this country, and I decide to, let me even use two policies in Ghana. Health insurance, free senior secondary school. In one form or the other, it was started by some other people. But there's a certain recognition that, look, somebody maybe did it differently or did this and did that. And those people would want to be seen as those who spearheaded it. I hope you understand what I'm saying.
Exactly.
Yes.
Saying,
So
as an O-level
opportunity to do what perhaps is right, just to go by what you're saying, then what we do is to recreate history with the images of some 6 particular
But that is that.
and for my children to be able to read about those 6 people and the fact that they were pivotal in the fight for independence and not have the opportunity of reading about all those stalwarts. Why would any government want to subject me to that?
I share that sentiment in terms of basically widening the scope and having this conversation in a proper way, devoid of the sentiment. Otherwise, you see, the moment you go into this whole issues to do with sentiment, for example, there are people who have never forgiven Kwame Nkrumah from being the liberator to at a point actually becoming what they will call a tyrant or somebody who decided to impose himself on this country as a lifetime president. And they'll never forgive him for that. You know what I'm saying? But like you're saying, and I take your position that it does not take away from him in terms of his conviction, the passion, and dedication that he showed for us to become independent. Is it okay for people to have a certain level of disquiet and be disgruntled by the happenings of the period? Yes.
Undoubtedly.
And then the reverse is also true, whereby some elements also feel that he did all of those things because of certain incidents or things that happened at a point, and they use that to justify those actions. But the truth of the matter is that if you are affected, if you are somebody who's been impacted negatively, and we can even extend this conversation, you mentioned Rawlings, right? We can even extend this conversation to people who, for one reason or the other, were victims of a so-called revolution, who up to today will not be able to forgive people who perpetrated these things. You understand what I'm saying? So I believe strongly that as a country, we have to get to the point where we would, take a cue from President Akufo, for example, and go back to this whole conversation around reconciliation and all that. Because in one breath, you say somebody wants to rewrite the history. In another breath, we want to also undermine or underestimate the contributions of other persons. You cannot do that concurrently. We need to find almost a middle ground and say that as a people, there are positives, there are things that we can take from these persons who dedicated their lives to the development of this country. However, in terms of the excesses, in terms of the negativity that actually ensued in doing that, let's eschew these things and move on as a people.
Yo, waiting for when they add some abameto or so. And I was a GCD so and our channel. So we are subscriber ya or more than say over subscriber. No, I like it. Nothing so was share video no amount for any be after. Also, betting actually what you have idea and so we now will comment boxing. Waiting in my next video.
Thanks for watching. Like and share the video. You can also drop your comment. Please don't forget to subscribe. Click on the bell to turn on the notification.